Hi, I'm Jeff and this is Tropical Plants at 53 degrees north, and today I'm going to talk to you about begonias and dahlias. I've left it a little bit late this year unfortunately, and I'm very keen to see whether I've killed them. It's still autumn, you can still bring them in during the autumn period. They normally say leave them until the top growth has been blackened by frosts, that's definitely happened. So I'm going to have a look at them and see if they're still alive, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with them. And I've got a little bit of history about them as well, which you might find interesting. Before I do, I've got a couple of little updates. So I'm just going to flip you around and show you a couple of things that I've talked about in my other videos first. Only take a minute or two, promise. So I'll just flip you over. Okay, first update, this little Nepenthes hookeriana. This is a lowland species, so it's only, it's only like temperatures above 15 degrees, and obviously in here it's getting down to 12. On some of the colder nights it got down to 11. So what I've done, I've brought it a little bit lower down simply because it's nearer to the heater, which is just there, up there, and it's kind of in the direct line of the heater, and it's on the propagator, so it's getting a little bit of bottom heat as well, whereas previously it was up there on the shelf. Now you would think that higher up it might be a little bit warmer up there, but in actual fact it does seem to be cooler. That's what my thermometers are telling me. So, and you can just see here, just the tips there, it's gone a little bit brown. It's not the leaf, it's not in danger of going, but I just thought I'd try it. Oops, just pulled a little bit off there. So I'm going to give it a little try on here, and if it doesn't seem to be coping with it, then I'll take it into the house. So that's first thing. Other little update, you might want to see my sweet sugar finally come out, Oncidium sweet sugar. This is its second time blooming for me, so I'm quite pleased about that. I know you've seen the twinkle a few times, but it's still well worth looking at. It's looking stunning. During the month of November, it cost me a total of £57. Now that's not actually true. By the time you get this, you may have seen the one that I did where I went around the greenhouse and I measured how much it cost for each electrical appliance in the greenhouse, and we came up with quite a startling discovery, well to me anyway, and that was that these that look like fluorescent lights over here, these like long thin heaters, they don't light up, they just provide quite a lot of heat. They are on a thermostat, but I had them all turned right up because the thermostats don't work very well. I have 3 of those, and I wasn't at all. I wasn't measuring or factoring in the cost of these heaters. I was told originally, the first bit of information I read on them in the sales pitch was that they only cost, what a light bulb would cost. Well, I found that to my cost, that they actually were costing me, in total, the 3 of them were costing me £1.80 a day. And of course that was regardless of what the temperature was in the greenhouse, because they weren't going off because they were turned right up to the top, up to the limit. So with this 57, I've got to add in another £55 a month on top of that. So you can see how much it's cost me over the course of November. Now obviously December, January, February are going to be even colder. So we're talking over 100. Now I've saved this amount up. I save it throughout the year so that I've got enough to cover my greenhouse costs. But we're saying it's £110 there roughly for a month. It's quite a lot of money. So, but you can see here, since I've switched those heaters off, it's been reflected in higher costs for my fan. So whereas the fan heater was costing me a maximum of £3.74, now we're talking £5 odd, £3.50 there. Now that also happened to coincide with the fact that it's been extremely frosty this last week. So not only as the fan, having to cope with temperatures down to -2, -3, even -4 the other night, it's on a lot longer because it's the only thing keeping the greenhouse warm. So it'll be interesting to see what that comes out with in December. Obviously December's a colder month, but it'll give me an indication as to whether it's any better without these heaters. I think it will be, because obviously this main heater over here is on its own thermostat, and it does go off when the temperature goes up. Like today we've got a sunny day. I have got my Mars Hydro on as well, but you can see the sun coming in from the corner there. So that's two little updates. There was something else I wanted to update you on. I'm just trying to think what that was. Oh yeah, I was looking for a supplementary heater, and I have flipped and flopped. I've gone from one thing to another. I was going to get a generator, but the idea of a generator, which sounded great initially, and I was looking online at the costs. I could get one that covered the power that I want, because I want one to do a 2 kilowatt heater. But the cost of the generators that I could afford started about 150, which is quite cheap really for a generator. Generators are quite a lot more expensive than that generally, but that was a cheap one that I could find. But they're quite big and they're quite noisy. You know, we're talking 110 decibels. You know, it's like having somebody running a, well, because it's an engine, isn't it? It's like somebody running a petrol mower outside your house in the middle of the night probably. So plus of course I thought, well, how if something happens and it goes off in the middle of the night, how am I going to get the generator running? I can't have it running inside the greenhouse because of all the emissions that come out of it, because this is, you know, it's not like a really well ventilated greenhouse at this time of year. I've got all the gaps plugged up. So obviously this heater is on a plug, so the plug goes into the socket down there. So imagine me in the middle of the night coming down thinking, right, electric's gone out, I've no light, but I've got to somehow take that plug off. And looking at these plugs these days, you can't take them off. They don't just you know, they're all like a sealed unit now. And even if that one isn't a sealed unit, I can't imagine me in the middle of the night taking the plug off it and somehow trying to get it underneath the greenhouse or through the louvre windows to get, and then rejig it all back up again and plug it into a generator. It just wouldn't work. I also come across something called a petrol inverter generator. Now these seem to be like the modern versions of the generators. They're a lot smaller, they're a lot quieter, they're only about 50-55 decibels, which I believe is about the volume of two people talking. I could cope with that. I don't think anybody could hear that. I could even put it in the garage. But again, I've got the problem of getting the cable to it. And the biggest problem was, of course, they're a lot more expensive. The cheapest one I could find was about £450. So I've come back full circle to the like a gas heater as a backup, like a propane gas heater. I found one that's 4.2 kilowatts, and I've got a search around and I've been able to get it, or I will be able to get it, for about £119. Then of course I'm going to need the propane tank, and when you initially buy them for the size I want, you've got to pay more than double to get the tank in the first place. Then it's half that cost then to refill it. So it's going to be like £75 to buy this thing, to get the tank. So yeah, that's what it's going to be. And of course I'm going to need a sensor to make sure I know what the temperature is. So it ain't a cheap hobby. So the sooner I can get up to 1,000 subscribers, the better. So yeah, if you fancy sharing me around, please do. If of course you think it's worth following my videos. I'm certainly doing my best. I'm still new at it, but I hope you can see some progression at least in the quality of what's going out here. And it would be really nice to get back to plants. Things are looking okay. I did a little December tour. I have to say, I watched Rachel's garden at Duenza, and wow, you know, her greenhouse just makes mine look like, well, I won't be ungrateful. Mine is mine and I love it, but I was just bowled over by some of the plants that she's got. It makes me want to grow succulents. I don't know if I could grow them in this environment. It might be a bit humid, but I'll certainly give them a go, and I'll have to jump on there and ask her advice on it. So anyway, back to dahlias and begonias. So I've got a number of dahlia and begonia plants. I'll just grab one under here. Doesn't look much, does it? it did do. This one is quite, well, it's a fairly large dahlia. It's kind of a couple of feet high. I've only just, like last week, cut it down because it just would have kept going and going and going. And this is the thing about dahlias. We talk about begonias and dahlias in our country as being annuals, but of course they're not. They come from, both of them actually come from like Central America. Dahlias in particular just around the areas of Mexico and the hills up in Mexico. I did a little bit of research on them, and I understand that the dahlias were first kind of discovered, and I'll do that in inverted commas because of course the people who live there will have discovered them way before Europeans, but they were discovered to Europeans anyway, round about the 18th century, and they were named after a Swedish botanist called Anders Dahl, or Andreas Dahl. Dahl as in, Roald Dahl, if you're familiar with the children's author. So I wonder whether really we should call them dahlias. Perhaps they do call them dahlias somewhere. Some of them, I believe, are taller than people. That would be interesting to see, a dahlia taller than a person. Yes, of course, they are tender, but they do come from the hills and the mountains in Mexico, so you would expect that they don't really mind cooler temperatures that much, but we always lift them, so the frost will kill them. Now the ones that I've got outside, this one's actually been in for a number of months now, but the one I've got outside, it'll be interesting to see whether I've actually killed that one or not, so we'll go and have a look at that one. Just a couple of things about begonias. Begonias, I've kind of lumped them together because they're both like a tuberous kind of bulb thing, which I'll talk about in a minute. We'll decide whether they're a corm or a tuber or a rhizome or a bulb or a tuberous root. That's something I've always been a bit confused about, but hopefully we can clear something up on that. But I've lumped them together because it's just something we tend to do in our country. It comes around to autumn, we let them get blackened by frost, and then we lift them and we bring them inside and we give them a rest. Now I understand that you don't necessarily have to do that. You can, of course, you've got to get them somewhere frost free, but they may well carry on if you get to them before the black and by frost. Well, I've certainly not got to them before the black and by frost. Mine's had a number of frosts on them, so let's see if I've killed them. Because they're in pots, they're under the soil, they might be okay. We'll have a look. So begonias also come from Central America. They also come from South America, some parts of South Africa and Asia. An interesting thing about begonias I found out was that they're not all terrestrial, so orchid lovers might be interested to know that some of them are epiphytic, although I've never seen any that are epiphytic. But they're quite a big group, begonias. First introduced in the UK in 1777. So let's go and have a look. I've got a number of them, only 2 or 3 pots, and let's see whether they've survived or not. And while we're out here, you can just have a look up at the trees, which you've seen a few times. There you go, not a leaf on them now. Plenty of birds, not a leaf on them. So yeah, we've got 3 pots over here, 2 begonias and 1 dahlia. You can just about, well, quite easily see. I think the begonias will probably survive. They don't look totally dead. There's still a little bit of green on there. That looks like it's had it, doesn't it? It's full of leaves. So what we'll do is we'll take these in, give them a clean up and see what we're going to do with them. So I'll catch you in a little while. Okay, so we've got one of the begonias here, and as you can see, it's seen better days. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a good clean up, get all the stuff off it, tip it out, and let's have a look what we've got with the and it's actually the begonia is known as a tuber, which I'll talk about in a little while. Now that's clearly gone. I do believe if you can't pull them off like this, then they're not ready to take off. So there's all sorts of leaves, there's snails, there's everything on here. I have in the past overwintered them in pots, just left them as they are, not particularly as a horticultural experiment, just because I ran out of time and I didn't get round to doing it. So this year I've got more time to do it, so I'm going to get rid of all this stuff simply because I don't want to bring into the greenhouse all sorts of little bugs and pests which will obviously be inside that soil. Now there is a way of doing it where you can bring a pot inside and kill everything that's in there, and I will show you what to do at some point, but it's very easy to explain anyway. All you need is a trug, big trug of water. Make sure that the water will come above this because you're going to dunk this inside. Inside your water, put something like some Castile soap, or any kind of soft soap really. I suppose even dishwasher soap will even do it. Anything inside there that will kill off, usually something that'll kill aphids off, so some kind of soft soap. I actually think, I've never tried it, but I think just plain water will do it. And the key is to leave it in there for at least 20 minutes. Now, the reason why it's not really a good idea to do it with dahlias and begonias at this time of year is because you're looking to dry these things out. So if you go and dunk it in water, certainly in these temperatures, it's never going to dry out and it's just going to rot off. But it's a good little tip for, when you're bringing anything in at any other future time, to dunk it in some water and leave it in there for 20 minutes. I did it with a lot of my plants that I had outside that I did manage to get in early. Things like the banana, the olive tree, and you could see them rise to the top. Nothing that crawls and creeps around can stand being underwater for 20 minutes. Not in my experience anyway. So, but that's obviously to get things out of the pot. The foliage is another matter. Okay, so begonia. This is a mixture. There's actually a few in here. Oh, there's a little bug there. That's the first one. Dealt with. That's that one. So let's see what else we've got in here. And I do want these to dry out. Not going to be easy. So the question is, are they so frozen that it's too late and I've killed them off? I would normally have brought them in like October time, but things have just happened, and as they do in life. There we go. That's the first. And there's the other. So I'll just get that out of the way for now. And let's have a look what we've got. The good thing about trying to keep them each year is that they get bigger every year. That, my friends, is what happens when you have lots of grey, and we've got our American friends to thank for these, I don't think. Lots of grey squirrels in the garden. Grey squirrels, not the native red squirrel, the more boisterous, should we say, grey squirrel, which comes to all my pots and buries these peanuts in them, ready for winter. I mean, they're nice to look at, but they don't wreck your pots and your borders and your lawn. But we won't get into that. I'm not a fan of the grey squirrel, I have to say. Right, well, this tuber doesn't look particularly... It's still alive, I think it's fine. I'm just a bit disappointed it's not grown any bigger. It's a bit miserable looking, isn't it? It's a bit small and miserable looking. Now what we need to do with this is we need to dry it out. So all these fibrous roots on the edge, they can go, because all they're going to do is make it, or give it something else to rot. What I tend to do with them is put them on some newspaper in a tray. I'll just grab a tray. Right, so that's my first one on a tray. Could this be bigger? Or is it just a lot of soil and a tiny little tuber? Let's have a look. I must admit, I don't really look after these particularly well. I'm normally in the gardens, I'm the busiest during the season. This is the same, it's only tidgy. Crikey, it is tidgy. But yeah, they did so well this year. They did do really well. So there you go, 2 tiny little begonia tubers with the label. Don't need much of a tray for that. So there'll be all sorts in here. So I'm not going to save this stuff. I know it's always tempting, but that can go on the borders in the garden. And then we'll have a look at what we've got with our dahlias, our dahlias. Sounds very posh that, doesn't it, dahlias? So I shall just get rid of this soil. Oh, I thought I had another one there.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly, la 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 la.
Okay, and now over to the dahlias. I'll start with this one. So this is the one that was outside. It's full of leaves and all sorts. So let's have a look at what we've got. So put all these off. Again, didn't really look after this. I really could have done with repotting it because I think it's been in this pot for a couple of years now, and over summer it got very dry. Not because we've had a nice summer, but just because it was sheltered under some trees. So this was repotted February 2018. I had to peel a number of snails off it as well, and there's some slugs underneath. Let's make sure they don't escape. So let's have a look what we've got. Gosh, it really is rooted tight in there. So these are tuberous roots, these are. So while I'm doing this, we can perhaps have a little chat. If I can do 2 things at once. Oh, I forgot of another begonia there I've not done. Thought I had more than 2. Yeah, so bulbs. Start with bulbs. So bulbs, one way I always remember what a bulb is, think of an onion. It's got lots and lots of layers. It's like the whole thing, if like once you start cutting it up or peeling bits off it, the whole thing is the same. It's just like layer upon layer upon layer, skin upon skin upon skin. So that's the one that we're all probably most familiar with. That's a bulb. Can't get it out. A bulb also has a basal plate at the bottom, okay, but that doesn't differentiate it from other things because so do corms. So corms are similar to bulbs. They look very much like bulbs. They do have a basal plate, but what they don't have is layers. So if you cut a bulb in half, you'll just see the same thing like repeated. Get out of there. Told you it needed a repot. It's a good sign though, isn't it? Good sign it's healthy. If it's like distorting the pot, it's that packed. Yeah, so a corm looks like a bulb, does have a basal plate, but it isn't, if you cut it in half, it doesn't have all those layers. Now, how you can tell when it's, because obviously you don't want to be cutting them all into 2, that would be no good. Bulbs corms wither away as well once the season's over and they produce a new one. Tubers, these are tubers. I've just wrecked one. There's a tuber. It's a tuberous root. Tubers have eyes. Oh, I'm ruining it. Won't come out. might have to just cut the pot. Oh, hurt my wrist the other morning on trying to defrost my wife's car. It was absolutely, it was like concrete trying to get it off. I'm going to wreck this if I carry on. I think I'll have to destroy the pot. It's not like I would be saving it for anything. So where was we? Tubers. Yeah, tubers have eyes. So think of potato. Potato is a tuber. Begonias are tubers. When you see a begonia begin to sprout, you'll see several sprouts, as it were, coming from it. Gosh, it's so packed in. Like that. Not too packed for the worms. There's a few worms in it still. Finally. So, I'll finish my story. Yeah, they don't have a basal plate, tubers. They have eyes. And think of potatoes. I think tubers are quite easy to think of because, I mean, I don't know. I just kind of think, oh, that one's good. That one's rotting. A tuber. I don't know, it just kind of comes into my head that a tuber is that kind of shape. I don't know why. I think it's bulbs and corms are the ones that we all get mixed up over. And anyone who's grown orchids will know what a rhizome is. So a rhizome is a bit like the Miltonia spectabilis I was repotting the other week. And yeah, that's a tuber. That'll be fine. That'll be okay for, sorry, there we go. That'll be okay to plant next year. Yeah, the rhizomes, they kind of go sideways, they grow sideways and root as they go. So like I say, I'm sure you all know what rhizomes are because you're all orchid growers. So yeah, we've got a very dense pile here and it's full of worms. I could really do with separating these out. I think what I'm going to have to do is let it all just dry off because it's not sopping wet, but it's so tightly packed. I mean, that is one tightly packed bunch of tuberous roots, and I'm going to let them dry out, and you've got to be very careful that they don't all shrivel up. So when we say dry out, it's really all the stuff around the outside that we want to dry out. The actual tubers themselves, and the same with the begonia tubers, you don't want them totally dry. You want them a little bit moist, but not so moist that they rot. It's Hobson's choice, really, isn't it? I think these little things that look like eggs, they're just the pellets, the feed pellets. So that's that. So I'm going to stick them in a tray for a little while, along with the label. I'll just show you this. So we've got begonia tubers and we've got the dahlia tubers over here. I think that one's had it really. I have to keep my eye on them. I'm going to try and knock all the soil off this once it's completely dried, and I'm going to have to get all the worms out of it because there's a ton of worms in there. And that's what you do, you leave them like that, somewhere, preferably somewhere like fairly dark and cool, but I don't really have a place like that, so I'll have to stay here in the greenhouse. I can keep my eye on them, can't I? And I think next year I'm going to get some better begonias because these, even though they grew okay, they're looking a little bit miserable. I mean, these should be getting bigger each year, and that just shows how I've not really cared for them very well. Actually, change of plan. I'll let you see this. I'll just time lapse it, and then you can see what's going on and see whether I've got any bigger tubers, because I know you're dying to find out. So, cue time lapse.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly, la 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 la.
all that pot and root for that tiny little thing. Here's a little tip. Concave side upwards. That's a slightly better looking tuber than the last one. Ta-da! So this is what we've got left from all that. So we've got 2 lots of large dahlia tubers, and we've got the 3 concave up begonias that's left there. So I'm just going to put them under a bench for now and let them dry off, and as the soil dries off, no doubt there's quite a few worms in here, I'm going to try and shake the soil off and keep them reasonably dry. And the next stage will be to put them in just a shallow little bit of soil, just a little bit of compost, and just keep it a little bit moist, certainly nothing, not wet to the touch, and hopefully that should keep them over winter ready for planting out in spring.
La